school. The district had once again humiliated me and shown a lack of communication with a contract that was approved by the superintendent, Dr. Jamie. On March 4th, 2010, after taking my last part of my state exam, I was dismissed early to find a yellow bus waiting at the end of the hill to take me and a few of my friends to Camden Middle School, where we was questioned for about an hour and then brought back to I was sent to school. While down the hill near the school, me and my friends were disrespected by Newark police and Chauncey, telling us that we left the school without permission, even when we showed them our permission slips, saying our parents and administration gave us written permission slips. It was not good enough. I don't want an apology from this board. I just want you to know that your last minute decisions, when you're not around, has an effect on us that we deal with in this building. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, was that the week of HESPA, March 4th?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're just going to, and you were let out early, and you had, this is under investigation, we're going to look into this, Mr. Brown, I'll get something in writing to you, but I just want to put it for the record. There's no policy in the district that allows any student who takes the HESPA, Mr. Brown, I know you got permission, but I'm talking about other students now, to leave after they take the test. That is an all-day activity. You take the HESPA and you complete your entire school day. You are not allowed to leave the district school that you've at after you finish the HESPA testing. All right, we'll investigate that, Mr. Brown. I'll make sure that we get that in writing, and I'll look into that case. March 4th, you said, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Before you, Mr. Lewis, Dr. Jamie.
And Mr. Brown, no school in Newark, nor any other district, can make a decision on its own to have a half a day during HESPA. That's not the school's call. That's not the school's decision.
But if I recall, your name was on the bottom of my permission slips.
I know, it's a letterhead.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I even saw it until we began our investigation.
It had your signature on it.
No. Let me assure you,
It's
not a debate.
Case, it had your signature on it.
It's not a debate. It has everybody's name on it, but I am conducting an investigation on this matter. It came to my attention that a number of students were picked up for truancy who were dismissed early. That's not a school's decision. It's not in the schedule that we lay out every year. If you saw the schedule that we laid out at the beginning of the year, it didn't say Barringer would have a half a day during HESPA. That had my signature on it, not what you received as a signature for your parent to approve of you being a half a day on those days when HESPA was being administered. We'll get back to you, and I'd be happy to talk with you one-on-one.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Lewis.
I just want to say, Dr. Jamie, before you came to the district, as an alumni of the Newark Public Schools, when we had HESPA testing, principals was allowing us to leave after the testing. It's been going on for years.
I'm aware of that, and during 2008, 2009, there was a huge mess at Westside High School. Some 400 students were in the gymnasium because they were not taking HESPA. They were allowed to come to school 10 o'clock and beyond. That has changed. This year was the first year that grades 9, 10, and then 11 and 12 were all involved in some form of an assessment to avoid warehousing students in a gymnasium for a couple of hours and waiting for the tests to be completed, and then they would go on into some kind of activity. Because it may have been a practice in the past, doesn't necessarily mean it was a proper practice.
Yeah, it may it wasn't a proper practice. What I'm saying is to Mr. Brown that even when I was in Arts High School, you know, the communication level between the schools, the principals, and the superintendents have always been a thin line and haven't been the correct communication. Because when I was in high school, we was also being dismissed early, and then we'd get picked up by the police in Chauncey, and then they'd have to call the superintendent, Ms. Bolden, and Ms. Bolden let them know that the school let us go early. This has been the practice of Newark Public Schools, and I know that I know it's not your policy, but this has been something that's been going on in Newark Public Schools for years. And I just wanted you to know that as an alumni of Newark Public Schools.
Mr. Lewis, and then you bring up a good point. It's a practice that's been something that's been done in the past, but as a board member now, we've all seen the calendar come before us, and at no time did the HESPA calendar say early dismissal after taking a test. So moving forward, we will make sure that the instructions at those specific high schools are enforced. There is no student to be let out early. God forbid something happens to that student, that's our responsibility, that entire day. Next speaker.
Next speaker is student Janiyah Jones.
Greetings, advisory board members and superintendent. My name is Janiyah Jones, and I am a student at Ivy Hill Elementary School. I am in the 3rd grade. Today I am here to speak about school lunch. The lunch at my school tastes nasty. It's often hard and undercooked, and they serve pizza too much. The cheese on the pizza is not fresh. If they're not serving pizza, then they are serving chicken nuggets, which are half cooked and red inside. My friends and I get upset stomachs from eating the food. For some students, this is the only meal they will eat. We should be able to have a choice in the types of food you serve. Most students would rather go hungry than eat that garbage. Sometimes something needs to be done about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Next speaker.
Shamanique Jones, student.
Next speaker.
Mark Vaughn.
Next speaker.
Next speaker, Valerie Quinones.
Good evening, board members. My name is Valerie Quinones. Everybody is getting what they want. The parents and students of the West Ward, we're not getting what we want. This has been going on for over 25 years. 25 years. We haven't got our new school, our baby's off the bus, we got a new speedway. West Side have always been down in the boondocks. They haven't come up. If they haven't come up, the rest of the school's not coming up. It's because we got illiterate teachers, and I'm tired of it. Get rid of them. Everybody worry about their job. Christie, well, the governor, excuse me, he's not playing. He's not playing. Now, let me get to step one. I am tired. You talk about police brutality. But let me tell you about school security brutality. I want that taken care of. Number two, I am getting tired to see parents use their kids before the mic for their needs. I think kids from K through 6 shouldn't be at the microphone. 7 through 9 through high school, yes. Now, let me get to number 3. I want my Bellsboro High School We had a good school. We abide by the rules. Our babies came off the bus. I want what I want, Bellsboro High. Ivy Elementary, go to Mount Vernon. West Side is the beginning of Bellsboro. Bellsboro High in the Bellsboro section was a good school. Let me lay it on the line. We're gonna go back to Charlie Bell, Eugene Campbell. Now the turkeys and the chickens, their kids is in school. They got jobs. Our kids got nothing. And I'm paying big taxes. I'm fed up, and matter of fact, I'm paying all of y'all's salary. Okay? I own you. You don't own me. Now I'm getting tired. Barbara Cooker know me from years, right, Barbara? I'm tired of it. Let me know now. Will I get my school back? You can do it. You're doing everything else. You got a brand new central. They not learning nothing. I want something done. I'm fed up. Now, West Side, the principal of West Side, when he kick kids out or suspend them and they transfer, he's on the intercom telling the kids, hey, I got rid of them bad kids. Hey, I want to get rid of the principal of West Side. Hey, get rid of your security. Hey,
Ms. Quinones, I will answer one of your questions in regards to Vailsburg High School. Unfortunately, Vailsburg High School is not on the list to open up anytime soon, unfortunately, because of budget constraints. It's a school that's been closed down for numerous years. I understand where you're coming from. I
know how long. Hey, it's been closed down for numerous years, but yet, it was in the budget for Bellsboro High, but y'all got Central, okay? You don't have to have a budget.
Ms. Quinones, respectfully, you know, you come to the mic and I've respected everything you said. I'm going to answer your question you brought. Unfortunately, Vailsburg High School will not be opening in the school year of 2010-11. I don't know what the future holds for that school, but in school year 2010-11, that school will not open, Ms. Quinones, unfortunately.
Okay. I guess I have to write to the governor.
Keep bringing it up. Keep bringing it up, Ms. Quinones. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Diane Kwamina.
Diana Kwamina. Dr. Jamie, you was warned about your administrators in your schools. They write their own rules, they do whatever they want to do. It's time you put a stop to it. Many of you are worried about your jobs. Well, I'm not. The governor want to cut the dollars in the state aid for education. Many of you talking about it's going to be less teachers, larger class size, less programs in math and reading, not enough books and material. Well, you didn't have this in the beginning, so it don't matter now. Get rid of the old dust that has been lingering around for far too long. It's time for you to revisit these schools and get rid of the ones that's not doing their job. If you need me, I will go and point them out for you. Our children need to be protected more because there is abuse at home. I have dealt with several children where I had to intervene and call DIFAS in. You individuals are not paying attention to our children. You're not hearing their cries. When you do hear their cries, you go run on the phone and call the parents up. Now that's another abuse that they got to deal with when they get home. Then I have to receive the phone calls. Now I got to have this on my shoulders for a year and a half fighting for these children. Then the parent came here and put a false allegation on me at the last meeting by stating that I came to the school and changed this child's records with my address on it. This was done in 2008. Nothing was done in 2010. I went back to the school, removed my name. This child is in somebody else's home. That individual should have went to the school and put that address on file. My name wouldn't have still been there. I want to correct that problem from last month. I received this letter here from a Miss Wilson. Please do not respond back to me if you can't respond back to me in fully, because I never said anything about the school budget being cut and 10 to 15 schools was closing. Review the tape from February 23rd and correct the letter and resend it to me again. We need to stop classifying these children with IEPs and PRCs. These babies need to be reevaluated, and they need to be put in some classes where they can be mainstreamed.
Ms. Kwamina, if you can leave a copy of that letter that was sent to you in regards to the 10 to 15 schools. Ms. Kwamina, you made a comment. We respond always every year. Every time you come to the mic, we respond to your issues. If there was something sent to you incorrectly, if you can send it, come up front, leave it with the board secretary, we review it after the meeting, and we'll have conversations with you. They're not going to have any conversation back and forth. If you don't choose to do that, then that's fine. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Lucius Jones.
I think we all understand the definition of insanity. I'm not going to.
Can you say that again, Mr. Jones? I didn't hear you.
Lucius Jones, 224 Richelieu Terrace, Newark, New Jersey. I said I think we all understand the definition of insanity. My concern today is to talk about begin talking about the Obamacare and the significance of Obamacare. I watched it this weekend, and I can clearly say that the Tea Party, as they call themselves, must have been drinking liquor, because they were very intoxicated when they talk, when you can hear them on national TV calling Obama the N-word. See, when we, regardless of how much knowledge or education you get in this country or in this world, it doesn't mean diddly. You still the N-word. So it goes to say to this, Dr. Janey, educators, African-American educators, what does it say about your doctorate's degree, your PhD, and whether or not they're really doing it in the best interest of kids, the best interest of community? Dr. Janey, I like to point out that the fact that the governor's going to cut our budget, and I think that you have an obligation to challenge that with the backing of the community. To sit around and wait for the governor to turn back around and advertise what you did in Newark and reverse the Abbott decision, and then turn back around when the plan that Governor Corzine put in place to cut the budget over a series of years, to turn back around and say, I'm not on board with that plan, cut it now. We will have lost almost $205 to almost $250 million. And then we create a budget based on the presumption that a budget is going to be cut next year. We lose tutorers, we lose custodial workers, we lose security guard, we lose great cooks in the kitchen, we lose a lot of folks because this governor can't stand, wants to make a point that he's the man that's going to get it done. It is too long, it's taken too long for the people of Newark to say enough is enough. But I also believe not just rolling out the budget on Monday, but let's get down to the details. The real details is that we, the largest city in the state of New Jersey, must take a stand. If we do not take a stand, we will close more high schools. We will put more children in the street. They're closing schools while they're building prisons. State-of-the-art prisons. We need clear leadership. What does it mean? Transparency means we must come out of the penthouse and we must talk about what's real and what's sincere and what's truthful. The community can't fight what they don't know about. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Christine Kerber.
Good evening. My name is Christine Kerber, and I'm the Vice President of Workers United, Local 3, which are the school cafeteria workers. These are those folks that are here, the lunch ladies that are here in Orange, okay? They're affiliated with my union. I am here to speak on their behalf. Very shortly, you will hear from a number of those workers directly, and they will tell you their response and their feelings to the news that you are looking to extend privatization. Right now, the school services, the lunch school services, breakfast programs are privatized in 49 schools. You know, there's an old saying that no good deed goes unpunished, and I truly believe it applies here. In the late 90s, these ladies, because they understood the problems facing this district, decided that they were going to help you out. And they said, okay, to 5 schools being privatized. Now we're up to 49. And now we're looking at all of their jobs going. 2 contracts ago, a 2-tiered system in their contract was established that allowed you to hire new workers at a lower rate. I think that was a real mistake. You know, again, no good deed goes unpunished, and today they're sitting here facing the loss of their jobs completely. As a result of a request for information, we were given copies of 2 reviews that were commissioned by the board to review the food services in this district. And some of you have received a copy at the meeting last week, but I would like to just focus on some of the highlights of that report. In a December 2008 review, which was conducted by the Council of Great City Schools, it was determined that the District Food Services and Nutritional Division is not currently structured to adequately oversee the food services management contract. According to the review, the current food services management contract has no detailed requirements and no penalties for a lack of performance. There are no incentives for management to control costs. All of the costs are directly passed on to the school district. There's no incentive, no penalty to control or to encourage increased revenue by helping to get parents to sign up for the free programs or to collect money when the students are supposed to be paying for it. In July 2009, an operational performance review was conducted by MGT of America. They were also deeply critical of the food services management contract. They said they are not meeting the needs of this district. Interviews with staff and administrators at that time indicated that they were not performing adequately. These reviews concluded that if they continue with the current relationship, they will not be able to focus, the district will not be able to focus on the needs of the district. Significant oversight of the management program is taking time and resources away from the district's priorities of providing quality, nutritious, and affordable school meals. There is a huge amount of turnover in the workers that are employed by the management program. As a result, the school district is forced to train those workers, are forced to monitor those workers at a cost to them that is not reimbursable under the contract. That is absolutely absurd. There have been 3 executive directors of that management, of the food service management program, in 3 years. What's wrong with this picture? These 2 reports also indicated that you were heavily overstaffed on the management side. In, continuing, as we can see,
it's ridiculous to continue on the down program. These people, these lunch ladies, okay, have been working for 25 years in the school district. They make a decent wage, they deserve their job. Don't continue to the down program. You will look ridiculous.
Thank you, Ms. Kroger. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Gail Mohammed.
Good afternoon, Dr. Janey and Advisory Board. Gail Mohammed, 158 Muhammad Ali Avenue. My name is Gail Mohammed. I work for the Newark Public Schools in the Food Service Department for the last 25 years. I am the president of Local 3, and I represent the young lady, the workers that's here tonight, that is fighting for their job against privatizing. Today, they are sitting here in orange or white. I will ask all workers to stand so you can be recognized that you have did a long, hard job for 25 years. And today, we are not wearing blue and white. We speaks as one in our request to understand that privatize is not the place in our school system. The view of the school continue to show that privatize do not work in the Newark Public Schools. Privatize would jeopardize jobs and livelihoods of 200 workers who feed our children in our community. My co-workers and I receive decent wages and good benefits. We support ourselves and our family and contribute in productivity to our community. We vote here, we pay taxes here, and we deserve the right to have decent jobs here in Newark. This attempt to privatize the Newark Public School will hurt our community. We say no to privatize, and we hope that the advisory board will support us and say no to privatize, because we are the working parents, the grandparents, the aunts that feed our children every day in our schools. We know what child will only have them 2 meals a day until they return Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We are the workers that walks down the street and kids could have been graduated 15 years and say to you, "You the cafeteria lady. Do you still work in the cafeteria?" That feels good because we know they recognized us. They know we served them good food. They know that we are the first to hit the building in the morning. So we say no to privatize. Our job, our fight.
Thank you, Ms. Muhammad. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Sharon Dades.
Good evening, Dr. Janey and advisory board meetings. My name is Sharon Dades, and I live at 159 Muhammad Ali. I have been working with the board for over 25 years as a cashier. I have 2 children that came up through the district and went to the schools in the district. Every time you start talking about budget cuts and deficit, it seems as though that the cafeteria staff is the first ones on the chopping block. And if not, that's all we hear about. I think we've been fair enough in the last contract, as the other lady said, that we gave back. And all it seems like you want to do is constantly take from us. We live here, we work here, and we deserve to have a job that gives us benefits and pay us well. But we do a job well done. Just like the young lady spoke from Mount Vernon, privatization is not working. She says she comes to school and the food is nasty. We cook our food with love. We care about the kids. We are mothers. We are practically their second caregivers. We make sure that they have breakfast. We make sure that they have lunch. And I don't think that it's fair that every time a budget cut comes around, our jobs are in jeopardy. If taking away our job will take away some of the meals that the kids get. Privatization will leave me and my co-workers without a job, and we will also become a burden onto the city, because if we don't have a job, our last result, we're going to end up welfare, food stamps, and that's coming from the state and the city. We're going to be taken care of by them. We deserve fair wages, good health benefits, so don't leave us out in the cold. Please say no to privatization of the Newark Public Schools and keep your hands off our jobs.
Thank you, Ms. Dades. Next speaker. Next speaker, Norma Garrison.
Oh, Norina Garrison. Norina Garrison Thomas, born 97 South 12th Street, raised up in Newark Public Schools. Thank you very much. And I remember people used to say to me, what you want to be? And I used to say, I don't know. But when I went to school and I met the food service workers in that school, and I saw how they care and took care of the food and us, and how they talked to us, and how they nourished us, and not only the teachers, but they did. The kitchens did. I was just so grateful to talk to the cafeteria workers. And I said to them one day, who are you? I'm a food service worker. That's what I want to be when I grow up. Because let me tell you something, when I came in here in 1983 to be a food service worker, and I'm proud of it, because I was trained. Now you want to privatize and bring these people that don't even know off the street what to do. You know what somebody told me one time in the bus stop? Oh, girl, all you got to do is go over there and get a job at school, honey, because all you got to do is just whatever, just serve something to the kids. It ain't nothing. I said, what you mean it ain't nothing? You got to know the temperature of the food. You got to know how to talk to the children, how to serve them, how you wash the dishes. Oh, girl, I use cold water and rinse it and keep going. What? Let me tell you something. I was so hurt and so upset and disappointed in the Newark Public Schools when I heard that this is what they want to do to save money. Oh, please, give me a break. Now, you're saying that this is a business and that the children are our customers. Well, what are you doing? You're hurting your customers, aren't you? You're disrespecting the workers, and you don't come and say hello, how you doing? What is wrong with you? Oh, and by the way, hello, board and superintendent. I'm so sorry, I didn't say it the first time. Thank you.
Next speaker. Next speaker, Leah Owens.
Leah Owens, 2-6 Freeman Street, Newark. Good evening. Again, my name is Leah Owens, and I am the founder and chief organizer of Talent Teachers as Leaders in Newark. I signed up to speak tonight to insist that Superintendent Janey and all the advisory board members fight on behalf of the children of Newark Public Schools. Some of the people present in this auditorium tonight came here to talk about all the terrible things going on in the schools. Some of the people present in this auditorium tonight do not realize that Newark Public Schools is an excellent, I might even say exemplary school system. The Newark Public School system is doing everything it is designed to do. Fail generation after generation of low-income people people, most who are people of color, and maintain the social and economic inequities of this society. So, in that sense, it is a great educational system. If we allow promised funds and resources to be taken away from our children's education, we will only continue the cycle of poverty and despair. The School Funding Reform Act of 2008 took away the Abbott designation and flat-funded Newark Public Schools, along with many other high-needs districts around the state. Now, Governor Christie's proposal says that Newark should get even less money. I have read the ideas about how the district will cope with this loss of funds, but I am perplexed as to why there was no plan to say no to these proposals, because they are just that, proposals. Plan B should be the cutback. Plan A should be to say no. According to the information from the governor's website, this $10.7 billion deficit that the state is facing is nearly a decade in the making. How is it feasible that we will be able to close it in just 1 year? And why do our children have to suffer in the meantime? I'd like to share with you the one comment written in response to Dr. Avila's article about how having magnet schools creates a two-tier system that was published in today's Star Ledger. That one comment said, "Well, Jose, I'm curious to hear your solutions to these problems. You already have all of our school aid money, so forget that, and you can't have the magnet students back. They went to the magnet school to get away from the animals. They're not going back. My solution, birth control, and lots of it." A few choice words from a speech given by Frederick Douglass speaks to this present time. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Power concedes nothing without demand. It never did and never will. He concluded in that same speech, find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of the injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them, and these will continue till they are resisted with either words or blows or with both. We can no longer quietly submit. So what can we do? We can unite to defend public education in Newark, New Jersey. Students, parents, educators, and community members have already begun to take a stand. We rallied at Washington Park and marched all the way here to Barringer. And on Tuesday, April 6th, there will be an organizational meeting to create a united front to defend public education from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Academy of Vocational Careers. We want you to join us. We want you to be on our side. We want you to tell Governor Christie, no, we do not accept your budget proposal. The children of
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Willie Rowe.
Good evening, everyone. Willie Rowe, 107 Ivy Street, Ivy Hill PTO, and also a member of ONEC, One Newark Education Coalition. And I marched up here with Leah Owens today. Governor Christie made this here a budget presentation. It's only a proposal. We here in Newark have been underserved for a long time. And to get rid of Abbott doesn't get rid of the conditions that we still have existing in this school. You can change the name, but we don't want things to remain the same. So we, as my colleague Owen said, we want to stand from a position of strength. Our schools have been shortchanged for years. We never got the full funding of Abbott. We never got the resources that we fully needed for these schools. So we want to go from a position, we got a strategic plan, we got a bolder approach. We need bolder action, and we need bolder leadership. And we need to demand what they set out for us in this School Finance Reform Act. No less, and if we can get more, we can. And President Obama's done some of Christie's work already. He's moving on to health insurance, so Christie won't have to worry about that. He made a credit to businesses if they hire people that's unemployed. So most of Christie's work is being done by the president, okay? And if he hadn't put stimulus money in this community last year, a lot of teachers would have been laid off. So, and those teachers that live outside of Newark, sometimes you vote for these tax breaks, but they give it to you in one hand and they take it back from you with your jobs. So we all need to be united with these food service workers, as Sister Jones spoke about. If we get rid of Chartwell, we need these ladies to pick up the pieces. And we all need to band together in unity and come forward with a straight plan and address our legislators, because they voted for the change in the Abbott formula, and they should stick to it, and we got to make them stick to it, or else we're going to have to take it to them. Thank you.
Next speaker. Stephen Outing. Next speaker. David Hungerford.
My name is David Hungerford. I live at 375 Mount Prospect Avenue in Newark. I'm really very concerned at this very abstract and meaningless way that schools are characterized as failing. It's not the schools that are failing, it's the society itself. It's falling apart. You know, as the previous speaker said, you know, the Abbott goals have never been met. I recall several years ago when the school construction fund for the Abbott schools was more or less looted. You know, so anywhere from $1 billion to $2 billion was pretty much embezzled. This district's construction plans were devastated, and there was never any criminal consequence. No investigation. Nothing happened. It was okay. Why was it okay? Because who suffered? Low-income school children, the bulk of whom are African American and Latino. They just don't count. Now that was the state of New Jersey that did that. I'm perfectly aware that the local school authorities and none of these districts had anything to do with it. But, you know, then you see this current wave of witch hunting going against teachers and saying, well, schools are failing and fire all the bad teachers and that'll fix it. Well, what did the teachers have to do with all of that embezzlement of the school construction fund? That happened at the level of state of New Jersey. And what the first state-appointed superintendent in Newark, you know, left after 4 years, and then it developed that there had been $140 million spent, and nobody knew where the money had gone. What did the teachers have to do with that? And yet fingers are pointed at teachers. Well, let's take a perfectly hypothetical example. I'm sure this could never happen in the Newark School District. Suppose a harshly evaluated principal, somebody who had twice been evaluated by outside agencies and been found professionally very deficient and unsatisfactory. Suppose that same school teacher took the extraordinary step of bringing up 4 veteran, respected educators, teachers who'd always gotten good evaluations, and brought them up on tenure charges. Well, how could such a thing, I mean, I'm glad this is totally hypothetical and could never happen. I'm sure that the central authorities here in the school district would never tolerate such a situation, because if you did, it would be just going along with the whole Christie program of blaming the teachers, blame the community, blame the victim, and trash the school budget. I'm sure you would never, I mean, you know, it's just a hypothetical thing, of course. I'm sure you would never, you know, be concerned with covering your own behinds and turn your face on that. So, you know, it's not the teachers who are failing. It's not the schools that are failing. It's the very social system itself that's taking money away from the education of low-income children.
Thank you, Mr. Hungerford. Mr. Hungerford. Mr. Hungerford. You bring up some good points. Mr. Hungerford, unfortunately, your time has expired. Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Darren Martin.
My wife wants to say something. Speaker this, I'm not bringing it up. Because I don't want anybody to see like it's favoritism. She's over there. She just got it.
Good evening, Dr. Janey, the board, the rest of the board, and community. Darren Martin, 43 Sanford Place. At Ivy Hill PTO president, I'm also SLC member. and president of the Fathers Club. Let me start by saying, Mr. Gonzalez, last month we had a meeting at Ivy Hill, and the only two people that didn't speak, Brother Rowe, I see you over there, my vice president from the PTO, Mr. Rowe, who was also honored that day, and only he and I were the only ones that was left on the list to speak, and you wouldn't even allow us to speak. But then tonight I come here, and this guy gets an hour. I mean, that's very unfair, very unfair. And we hosted the meeting last month. Now you're looking away, but we'll talk about it later, brother, but that is not fair. That is not fair. We hosted the meeting. I took all of 10 seconds to welcome you guys to the school and walked away from the microphone, and that's all I did. And you only had 2 people left to speak, and you just let it go. You just went to the next order of business. That was not right. Second of all, let's talk about how food is being wasted in this school district. Why are we not bright enough to get together with the food pantries and the homeless shelters in the areas? Every school should be able to do that. And all this food that you guys are dumping into the dumpster every day, I see that Ivy here all the time. Why are we not taking that to the food pantries? I don't understand why we waste so much food. It's unbelievable how much food we throw away every day in the school district. Second of all, you guys need to work it out with Chartwell, what's going on, before you guys made the decision for people not to get, the kids not to get peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or cheese sandwiches, whatever it was, parents were charged the full amount for a meal. So you guys need to work it out with Chartwell, make the adjustment before the school year ends, and make sure that when people got charged the full amount for peanut butter and jelly and it wasn't a regular hot meal, that they get the proper money for that. They all deserve their money and they should get it. Third of all, school lunch applications. Because we got Big Boy in Trenton now, we need to make sure that we watch our money very wisely. So school lunch applications, instead of us sending those home and putting signs up all around the schools trying to get them back for weeks and weeks, let's use our computer labs inside the school. The first couple of weeks of school, take the first month, this is not rocket science, it's pretty easy, and use the computer labs, and let's get some computer technicians in the schools to sit down with the parents and register them all right there at the school. Why are we giving them to go home and then trying to track it down weeks later and months later? Let's do it on that first month when school starts. And then we'll get everything out of the way.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin and Mr. Rowe, I spoke to you after that meeting at Ivy Hill School. Unfortunately, I don't know what specifically happened with your application that you faxed to the district in regards to you being a participant in that public speaking section of that meeting. But I did have a conversation with you after the meeting. We rectified that problem. You signed up. I explained the process. And again, I don't know what specifically the breakdown. But again, if I allow you, so for the record, we go throughout the district every month, and I've been sitting here for 6 years, and we have a process in place. If I allow you, Mr. Martin or Mr. Rowe, to speak, then I have to allow everyone, and there were people before you that have made that suggestion, and there's people in this room that can testify. I have always said no. I've always said no, but if I allowed you, Mr. Martin, to do it, or Mr. Rowe to do it, I break protocol, then everybody I told no to in prior meetings, you know, it makes me look bad. I've stuck to the rules, the way the rules have been set since I've been sitting at this table. And I'm sorry, Mr. Martin, you didn't get an opportunity to speak, but you did get to bring greetings on behalf of the PTO, and you had an opportunity to speak on behalf of that. Again, I apologize for the misunderstanding. You know that we have standards and protocol in play, and you have to follow that. I apologize for that. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Maureen Robinson.
Good evening to Dr. Janey, the board. My name is Maureen Robinson, Elizabeth, New Jersey. I'm the building rep, 5 minutes, West Side High School. Special ed teacher there. Good news, under the leadership of our current principal, Our average attendance rating to date is up to 85%. Okay. The other thing I want to correct is an accusation that was made against our principal tonight. Our principal is a dignified and a man full of integrity. He would never get on a microphone and desecrate a student. Mr. Gonzalez, I'd like to pay homage to you. I understand you're leaving next month. We've had our moments, but I've never disrespected you. Good luck in your endeavors.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
I'd also like to say that evaluations and observations are still being used as contentious weapons to retaliate against teachers in a vindictive and hostile manner. I have a case I'm getting ready to bring, Dr. Janey. All right. Number 4, cleanliness. I would like to have my room clean and my boards washed every day. 5, I would also like to know why our school is being discriminated against. Here at Barringer, their academy has its own principal. Their principal does not.
There's some people leaving. Respectfully, if you're leaving, if you can leave quietly so we can hear the rest of the speakers. Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
Good evening, Advisory Board and Dr. Cheney. I don't normally come up here to speak, but I came today because I wanted to say goodbye to Mr. Gonzalez because he's been really good to my family. But I also had an agenda here today. Normally when you inside Newark and you get a letter inside the mail and you have to go to Green Street, it's normally for a ticket or you done some criminal activity. I don't get neither. I've never been in front of a judge because I try to run a clean slate. But I was very appalled and humiliated that I received in the mail a letter for me to go to court on Green Street that came from Newark Public Schools telling me that my daughter been absent for 21 days. Actually, the letter didn't even say anything about the days. It just said you were supposed to report to court. When I called down there, that's when they informed me that it had to do with attendance in school. I didn't even know that even exists because I don't raise my children like that. I have a product of Newark Public Schools. My daughter's in college, and I live across the street from the school. So it makes no sense for them not to be able to go to school every day. Then I go to the school, they don't know what I'm talking about, but yet someone instituted this letter and put my name on the list. I was very disrespected when a judge get in front of me and read a script talking about neglect of a child. I have 3 children, and that's because I live in Newark. The room was filled with Newark, mostly mothers, with letters for truancy and kids not coming to school. I respect that you got your little thing that everybody got to make sure the kids go to school, but don't pick the wrong parent. You picked the wrong parent. Okay, I volunteer at the school. I do what I'm supposed to do for my 3 girls. My husband volunteered. And not only that, when I called the people at the truancy of the, we don't even have a attendance counselor at our school. So I asked them, how the heck my name get down here in the system? When I got down to court, all the man from the truancy or the attendance counselor could tell me, this is what the school said. Your child missed 21 days. Well, I called the school said my daughter missed 9 days from pneumonia. They the ones sent her home to me. So they should have it documented that my daughter was out 9 days and she had a note from the doctor. Not only that, for the fact for me to go down there, miss a day of work, pay for parking, to get down there to hear this guy try to badger me into telling me, well, why your child not in school? And I had proof, documentation from Newark Public Schools that said my daughter missed 9 days and she an honor roll student. So what the world do you have an honor roll student parent sitting down in court with 150 people looking like a fool? Now, those people was down there because they didn't let their kids go to school. That's them. You made a mistake, and the only thing that the guy can tell me from the attendance office was, I'll see you back in court in the 30th. And what I told him, hell no, I will not be back at court. Because you
Ms. Jones, if you can stay after the meeting, do you have that letter with you, Ms. Jones?
No, I don't have the court document, but I do have my daughter report card where they said 9 days.
We'll have a discussion after the meeting, if you can wait after the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Mr. Van S. Roper.
Good evening, everyone. I would just like to say this, number one, to the board. I turned over some information into the ombudsman in regards to an investigation with my sister, and I asked the Newark Public Schools to investigate a personal records leaving outside of the family. My mother told me to request today, go to the federal government and file a HIPAA complaint and put it on record with the state and federal government, and I will do that tomorrow. Because we have, listen, if someone can take my information and my child's information and get any access, and I know the person that did it, but I'm going to allow Newark Public Schools to do their own investigation because I've already did mine. I know the VP who did it, and it needs to be reported to the district, and I'm asking your chief of security. He needs to make a meeting with Mr. Roper, and your general counsel need to get involved to find out what they're going to do to those individuals who violated the HIPAA law. That's my first approach. My second thought is today that I'm here to deal with a drug and alcohol issue at Newark Vocational High School. On March the 4th, it seemed like it wasn't a very good day for Newark Public Schools. On March the 4th, my son was told by his principal in front of a SAC teacher that she was going to piss him and drug test him because he had a child walking around that building with a Polish Spring bottle with vodka in it. And so the principal, because she doesn't like Mr. Roper, she decides that she's going to drug test my son, not go to the nurse. My son was not. He was not examined by the nurse, pupils, pulse, blood pressure, nothing. It was ordered by the principal of that building. And I have an assistant superintendent who's telling me that she's ready for me. Well, I'd like to remind that assistant superintendent that at least 4 to 5 years ago, your SLT was under investigation for fraud of testing. And you're saying you're ready for Mr. Roper? I'm the one turned over the information to the state. And the state made recommendations, and they were going to fire principals because SLT1 has created the biggest fraud in Newark when they passed along kids that was illiterate that was scoring 300s on state tests. Went to Arts High School and they tested partially proficient, and the district was willing to terminate the principal. And I called the state and told the state, if you terminate that principal, I will go on record and say, to pass the buck on down to SLT1. SLT1 and SLT4 have put on the greatest demonstration of fraud testing in the history of Newark Public School. How's that for history, you guys? Dr. Janey, I've sent you several emails in regards to what's going on with Newark Vocational, and all I asked to do is be involved as a parent. I believe the young man, he talked about a poem called Knock Knock, about fathers who aren't there. Fathers who are an example for their children. Fathers who won't fight for their children. But guess what? Parents that fight for your children, you harass us and harass our children. And then you want us to come out and fight for you and get your jobs back. Listen, I'm willing to fight, and that's why I'm asking Ms. Jackson and all the other leaders, listen, we got to meet ourselves with the parents, with the staff, with the community, and we got to decide our own destiny. I don't trust none of you guys up there. And Dr. Janey, you need to turn in your resignation. Because you're not running this district anyway, your chief of staff is. We have a problem here. The only thing you're here to do is privatize. Listen, what you guys are talking about is just Dr. Janey and Governor Christie breaking the union. You got our children caught up into breaking unions, and it's not about education. It's an agenda that you have, and you're using our children's downfall as a position to basically finish us off as a community. We have a problem here. Mr. Gonzalez, listen, I would like to have a meeting with you ASAP. And General Counsel, I'd like to talk to you ASAP in regards to a lot of stuff that's going on in this district.
Mr.
My son down, I'm going to take everyone up there down with.
Mr. Roper, after the meeting, I have a conversation with you, Mr. Roper. If you go, Mr. Roper, after the meeting, I will have a conversation with you.
Mr. Roper, you can call me tomorrow then, Mr. Roper. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Kathleen Witcher.
That's her name. I know.
You know that. This one here is a corresponding secretary.
Is that one Phil? She can make it.
This kid's good.
You know, to get here. Let him bring it to her. She's right.
Go ahead, Ms. Witcher.
I'm Kathleen Witcher, 14 Garwood Place, Irvington. I represent generations of black and gold Bulldogs tonight, the many graduates of Malcolm X Shabazz High School, formerly Southside. It is the rich legacy of our school which compels me to speak. I represent graduates who are mayors and legislators, school administrators and teachers, physicians, lawyers, electricians, coaches, refs, professional athletes, carpenters, security guards, cafeteria workers, and custodians, and many others. Brother Fred recently climbed to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. We are a family steeped in the legacy of Malcolm X. I address you, Dr. Janey, and the members of the advisory board of the Newark Public Schools regarding word that our school was slated to close by recommendation of the CAPA team of the New Jersey Department of Education. Closing to reopen as 3 academies when we recently had academies in the school makes me question, where is the improvement plan and what is the corrective action of the administration of the school? Many of us remember the long-fought struggle to seat members on this board who look like us and change the hue of teachers and school administrators, including the school superintendent, to look like the school children in our schools. Many parents, including my own parents, Leonard and Wilnora Holman, led by Amiri and Amina Baraka, were instrumental in renaming schools to reflect our heroes, including Harold Wilson, Louise A. Spencer, Louis Marin Yanez, and Malcolm X. Further in their struggle, they adopted a policy of hiring Newark people. They are our cafeteria workers, our security guards, our custodians, earning their way when prior to that time they had very little jobs. Over time, we learned great lessons of the power of our people when we are working together. We know that the law guarantees our children thorough and efficient education here in this state. We know that the law requires input by parents and community when decisions are made about our schools. But we also recall that last year, Dr. Janey, you said that William Brown Academy, named for Mickey Brown, a local hero, was to be closed, and there was no community input. And most of the board members here sat, except for Marcus, and said nothing. Questions. Since teachers of Malcolm X Shabazz High School reached out for assistance, which is documented by Dr. Talbot in December 2009, what is the board's plan to improve the school? Question. Will this board direct the superintendent to adhere to the letter of the law to include community in decision-making? Question, when will this board evaluate the performance of the superintendent of schools? And question, how will our students reach their guarantee of thorough and efficient education?
Working in the Newark Public Schools, 33 years at Shabazz High School. I am nobody, but I am a recipient of the Sojourner Truth Award. That's right. I am nobody, but I am a founding member of the Alumni Association of Southside Malcolm X Shabazz High School. And I wish for all Bulldogs to stand. Some who have not
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, Mr. Lewis.
Ms. Witcher, I received your email, and I also tried to reach back out to you and call you. I don't know if you got my message on your phone, but as a board member, I was letting you know that we did evaluate the superintendent, but as a board member, I cannot share with you what was on the superintendent evaluation. We are going by the steps, and we are evaluating the superintendent. We also are evaluating ourselves, because we know as board members we have to evaluate ourselves. And I would do a disservice to any of my ancestors if I ever stand by shutting down a school named after a leader such as Malcolm X Shabazz. So I'm going to let you know that I'm a board member, and I believe some of my colleagues that sit here are also against closing down Malcolm X Shabazz. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Ms. Witcher, just for the record, once again, I spoke when Mr. Jackson came. There's no talk of closing down Malcolm X Shabazz. Next speaker.
Lee Williams.
Ms. King, before Mr. Williams speaks, Ms. King. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalo. I was waiting for everyone to speak to say what they had to say. First of all, I just want to say the only reason that I'm up here, number one, I don't get paid. For those who say they're paying my salary, I don't get paid. But the only reason I'm up here is because of the students. Now, we can have disagreements, but for anyone to ever make a statement that we don't care, and I'm speaking for myself personally, even though I know every member of this board, we come together, we may disagree, argue, whatever, but the interest is for the children. Nobody wants to see a school closed down. Nobody wants to see anyone fired. And I'm here to say today, any organization, I'm fighting for the children. That's what I come here for. And it really bothers me that sometimes if you speak truth, speak truth. But don't say one person is not speaking or one person is not doing anything, because we come to these places, and when the school was closing down, they were having meetings at Belmont Runyon all the time. I was there. At the different schools, I'm there. Brown Academy, I was there several times, many times. I'm there. I'm there for the people. I don't have to say what my long history is in this community. But I would not be here if I didn't care for the kids 100%. And any leader, any community person that is speaking truth and wants me to come fight with them, that's what I would do. That's what I've been doing all my entire life. And it's not here to appease the district or to appease you. But my relationship with these kids is between me and God and my ancestors. So don't anyone ever just decide because you want to sound a certain way that people up here don't have feelings and people are not committed to these kids, because that's my commitment. But if I'm wrong, you can tell me. But just don't assume there's something that you have a long history and we don't. I've lived my entire life fighting in this community. I was one of the people laid off by this district. I know how it feels. I've seen families affected.
So we fight. Sometimes we don't have to get up and showboat about it, but believe me, this is a fight that we all need to be involved with. I will be here. I'm for the 40,000 students here in the city of Newark. I'm for our community. That's what I've been doing most of my life, and that's why we're up here. So I'd appreciate it. If you have constructive criticism, criticize. But let's speak truth, and let's work all together. The district, we're not separate and apart, we're together. Let's work together and really make some noise if we want something to happen. Let's do it, and let's be truthful with each other.
Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Williams, you have the floor. Ms. Jackson, Ms. Williams has the floor. Thank you. I'm sorry then, I apologize. I know it was you, but Mr. Williams, go ahead.
Oh, I apologize.
Starts now, Mr. Williams.
It is no problem. My name is Lee Williams. My address is 1168 Washington Avenue. And I was sitting here and I've been waiting, but I was going to leave, but then I said, no, because I went to South Side, what we call South Side, and the Bulldogs, wah, 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 you know, and Shabazz, Malcolm X Shabazz. And I think I was brought up in Newark. I've been in Newark most of my life. You know, I've been traveling the country and everything. And plenty of places. But one thing I would not let people do, wherever I go, talk about the city of Newark. And that's one thing that I think so many of us forget. We must sit around and defend Newark. When people talk about Newark, they have problems in their doggone cities and towns. Now this is supposed to be, this is a meeting, and sometimes I just get fed up. And then we always find out people and politicians and etc. Everybody's going to do so much for this person or that person, and they don't. My concern is this: save our schools, all of them, and save our children. And thank you very much.
Next speaker. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Next speaker, Ms. Fitzgerald.
Who'd you call, Ms. Fitzgerald? Oh, okay. Please say Mr. Jones.
Hello, my name is Shashiba Fitzgerald, 17 Elwood Place. Good evening, Dr. Janey, board members, community, family. I would like to start off by reading you an insert from the CAPA report, and the district can correct me if I'm wrong. According to the district's strategic plan, a response to low-performing schools includes the establishment of career academics in high school. The team recommends that the district close down the school and reopen it as a multi-career academies. The district administrators and school community should develop and enact a comprehensive plan to re-instruct this high school as it is presently organized. A series of academics should be created within this structure to better meet the needs of the student body. Prior to the opening, engage a new administrative team in effective leadership styles, development of an academic structure, and team building. Then this team will create a more productive learning environment with a staff chosen from across the district. The team would also collaborate with new staff, students, and community to design a program of policies governing the academies for the purpose of development, leadership, and community ownership. I was part of this, I was interviewed by CAPA, and it's just disturbing to me that it's been well over a month now, if my memory is serving me correct, and the district has not addressed the community regarding this report. Now, you have so many parents, faculty, staff, just community, well, concerned people all around just concerned about what is the state, what is the plan for Malcolm X Shabazz. Nobody is having a conversation. I have called down to your office, Dr. Janey. I had requests that you reach back out to me. You got Ms. Merritt to reach out to me, which she had not a clue. And I just find that unfair to us as parents, community, student members. I just find it unfair. I would like to invite you and everyone on the board to a series of meetings starting this Thursday. Malcolm X Shabazz PTSA is hosting a solution-based community meeting around this capital report. We want to sit down with you and develop a plan for Malcolm X Shabazz. And I don't think the plan includes closing the school, because that was the recommendation. Even though you sit up there and say, no, we're not going to, but it was the recommendation. That's where all the rumors are coming from. And if the district doesn't communicate with us, we won't know. So Thursday at 6 p.m. in order at Malcolm X. And I'm inviting everyone to come out and let's have some type of solution-based meeting. I want to talk about the school culture and climate. I want to talk about resources to support student learning. I want to talk about technology to assist teaching and learning. I'm asking that we all come out and do this together. We cannot allow no one to close any school in Newark.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. Dr. Jane.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. While Malcolm X Shabazz has challenges like other high schools do in Newark and elsewhere, there was never a plan to close it down. And as you know, we spent an awful lot of time, rightfully so, at the beginning of the school year, taking care of that facility. But now's the time to take care of our children, plus the facility and the curriculum. So we are on the same page. Dr. Talbot, would you stand, please? Ms. Williams, you familiar with Dr. Talbot? Ms. Fitzgerald, rather? I know you are. That was a question I know you two have gotten together. Mr. Talbot is leading the effort along with myself and Ms. White. We'd be happy to join you and members of the Shabazz school community as we roll this out and working with you. We most recently met with Junius Williams a couple of Fridays ago, I think last Friday. He's offered the Abbott Leadership Institute to assist us in this planning as we also did the strategic plan. So it's an opportunity to engage everybody, not to isolate any part of the community at large or the Shabazz school community. So I want to thank you for your comments, and we'll be working together on a solution. I appreciate the way you framed your remarks.
Next speaker.
Next speaker, Ronnie Kellum.
Next speaker.
Next speaker, Barbara Abdur-Razak.
Good evening, Barbara Abdur-Razak, 1224 Woodland Avenue. I'm an alumni of Southside, AKA Malcolm X Shabazz, and I was very interested in hearing about the historical preservation. And when I think of that, I think of our schools in Newark. Public high schools, their history, preserving that, elementary schools. Closing Shabazz satisfies what? Closing any school satisfies what? I was also piqued my curiosity again about data. What data supports closing and making it a charter or whatever? What data is around to support that that is the answer? I also wondered, what messages are we sending our youth? Quit when the going gets tough? Throw the baby out with the bathwater? We give up, or we're afraid of you. So we'll close it down, and then we'll recycle you into other places. But have we corrected anything? We put a Band-Aid again on a oozing sore. So who's giving up? We all supposedly have ours. They deserve a chance also. Shabazz didn't just happen overnight. The other schools didn't just happen overnight. What have the powers that be, what have they been doing to remediate student and staff morale? Providing research-based reading programs to assist students in grades 10 through 12 who are below their reading grade levels. That was not my time frame.
Oh, you got another minute, Ms. Razak. Right?
Alleviate negative attitudes within school community. Increase the Saturday HESPA Academy. Classes not engaging or lacking in higher order thinking questions. Provide services for students who have a behavior responsibility. Students engaged in extracurricular activities except athletics and band when after-school programs are being drastically cut. Providing transitional services for those formerly incarcerated students. Why are they in the general population anyway to begin with? Because we certainly as educators are not equipped to master and deal with that population. All right, I'd like to read you a quote. Without education, you're not going anywhere in this world. Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for today. Our objective is complete freedom, justice, and equality by any means necessary. Malcolm X Shabazz once said that.
Thank you, Ms. Razak. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Liza Donnell.
Good evening.
Good evening, Liza.
My name is Liza Donnell, and I am the Southside Malcolm X Shabazz Alumni Association President. I come to you positively with greetings from the Newark community as well as the alumni of Malcolm X Shabazz. I truly believe that in this time of crisis throughout our country, both financially and academically, that as responsible professionals, we can have conversations and we can agree to disagree without being disrespectful towards one another. Our Newark community has a lot of history. The citizens of Newark are very proud citizens, but I do believe that if we don't stand together, if we allow ourselves to be divided, then we will not ever really have an appropriate opportunity to conquer the problems that we are experiencing currently in our Newark Public School District. So I ask that as a community that we stay together, we have conversations, we be supportive, and we work together to restore and hold on to our Newark Public School system in which we all were raised in and which we all here in this building attended. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Samuel Manigault.
There's no script. Right from the heart. Good evening, Dr. Janey, board members. My name is Samuel Manigault. I live 1156 Washington Avenue, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. I'm a 1969 graduate of Southside High School, now known as Malcolm X Shabazz. My wife graduated from Southside in 1969. My mother and father graduated from Southside High School. My daughter's the doctor at Malcolm X Shabazz. So I tell you that because I have a deep commitment to that school. I have lived in Scotch Plains for the last 30 years. And when Shabazz was in the Watch On Conference, They played Scotch Plains on a regular basis. And my daughters were on one side of the field, and my wife and I were on the other side of the field. I love that school. I trust what I've heard here today, that there will be no school closing for Malcolm X Shabazz. But that's not enough. I want to make sure that there will not be a reconfiguration of that school without an involvement of the community. I want to make sure that there will not be a redesignation of the school as a charter school. Now, during these last 4 hours, I've heard a number of things. And one of the things that kind of perturbed me, and I just want to address one of the board members, where she talked about the commitment to the education of all the kids in Newark. I think all of us are here. That's the reason why we spent the last 4 hours. But I quite frankly think that there is a conflict if you are a board member of the Newark Public Schools. You're supposed to be an advocate for public schools. So to say that charter schools is okay, and you're supposed to be an advocate for the public schools, I think there's a conflict. I come here today, and I kind of apologize. It's not just from a nostalgic thing that I'm here. My commitment to Malcolm X Shabazz goes back to the time when I was a counselor for the Newark Public Schools. I was part of the school improvement team at Shabazz, and we introduced a number of things, a number of initiatives. In addition, I am the bossless of what the superintendent knows to be the greatest fraternity in the world. And as the bossless of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, over the last 20 years, we've given at least 15 $1,000 scholarships to students in that school. So my commitment is there. I come here for the last time, and I have to apologize. I lack the necessary knowledge, information to address certain things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a couple of things that you provide to me tonight. And perhaps, Mr. Gonzalez, you can give that to me at the end of the session. One is, I don't know what a public charter school is. So I want somebody to define that to me so that I understand what that is. Secondly, I want to understand what the wisdom is of someone understanding that a school is supposed to be designated as a troubled school, a troubled high school, and then to take an individual who may have extensive experience as an elementary school principal and assign them to that school. I don't understand. And then lastly, what I would like to know is I'd like information regarding whenever there's a problem regarding the faculty or the administration, if an individual is not doing their job, then when I was counsel to the Newark Public Schools, we brought tenure charges. So I'd like to know what type of disciplinary action, what type of disciplinary charges, what type of tenure charges that we brought against these individuals who supposedly have to fit in our case.
Thank you. Mr. Manigault, if you can stay until the end of the meeting, I'll have that conversation with you. Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Catherine Watson.
Next speaker.
Next speaker, Sheila Manigault.
Well, I guess after Sam is gone, there's not a whole hell of a lot for me to say at this point. My name is Sheila Alexander Manigault, 1156 Washington Avenue. As he said, I am a proud Bulldog graduate, class of 1969, when it was still Southside. One of the things that I wanted to convey was I read, pretty ironically, the editorial of Dr. Aviles today, and as I'm reading it, I was like, wow, is this timely or what? And I highlighted a couple of passages, and I was going to read them tonight, but there's no need. But when you think about the kids who are at Shabazz, those who have gone to the magnet schools, what are you leaving for the comprehensive high schools? What is the expectation of the kids who need extraordinary help? I want to say that we also, I'm part of the Alumni Association, the Southside Malcolm X Shabazz Alumni Association. We are here to offer whatever type of assistance the board needs. Before there's anything done with reconfiguring Shabazz, I need to make that correction. We're here to offer our assistance. As Ms. Witcher noted, there are a few successes that have come out of 80 Johnson Avenue. Each one of us has pledged to devote ourselves to maintaining that school as it exists now, not a series of mini academic charter schools, but the way it is now, the way we remember it, maybe because it's nostalgia or no, it's a very emotional topic for me. If Sam said he loved that school, I love that school. And I think that, you know, as I understand it, Dr. Janey, that your school is the oldest school, and I am pretty sure that if there was any talk about somebody thinking about closing your school for whatever reason, you'd have a problem with that.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Dorothy Kyle.
Good afternoon, Dr. Janey and other board members. I am glad to be here this afternoon, tonight, afternoon's gone, to speak for Malcolm X Shabazz. The question is asked, can anything good come out of Newark? I say yes, and something good can come out of Malcolm X, because I sent a granddaughter to Fordham University. She finished in 4 years, and she never was put on academic probation out of Malcolm X. I would like to commend the principal of this school who had the courage to put pen to this article in the Star-Ledger today. That took a lot of courage, and he's not afraid because he told the truth. I have witnessed teachers that didn't fit in other school districts dumped in Malcolm X. And we know this happens. I have witnessed elementary principals coming into a high school that know nothing about the high school, know nothing about the children, know nothing about the faculty, and try to run the school and say they're doing a great job. This is not true. I worked under Mary Bennett. I worked under Leela Dinkins. They knew every inch of that building, and a child could not get in a corner and roll dice. Neither could they get in a corner and smoke pot, because they would never know when their principal was going to tip up on them. You cannot run these high schools from your office. You got to be out there with the kids. Dr. Janey, I know that you and my pastor are very good friends, and you have a good friend when you have him, but he's the pulpit. Ms. Bolin was in education. I think what's lacking in our school district is transition, and we should, before we send these principals into the school, Dr. Janey, please, let them sit with the former principal for at least 2 weeks to learn the building, if nothing else. If they know the building, then these children couldn't be in all these corners smoking pot. I love Malcolm X. I worked hard for that stadium. We got the stadium. I'm in this chair now, but there's nothing wrong with my brains. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kyle. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Jada Jefferson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jada Jefferson. That's my grandmother. I'm the one she was talking about. Initially, when I came here tonight, I was all about keeping Shabazz open, but I'm kind of torn. I want to keep all the schools open, pretty much. But to looking at this graduation requirement, the new requirements that you had, I took everything. The 130 credits, I took everything. I didn't know I had a choice not to take them. Honestly, I didn't know I didn't have a choice. As far as Ms. Bennett being my principal, I had a great principal. Yeah, I went to Fordham University. I never was on academic probation, not once. I graduated in 4 years. However, I will say I did have a hard time. Now, if you're going based on Newark Public Schools and you're going on numbers against, how many students not going to college or how many students having to transfer from different universities because they don't have the grades, at the end of the day, it's Newark Public Schools. At the end of the day, by redlining, we have already been downgraded to be less than less. I didn't, when I went to Fordham, I had a hard time telling people I'm from Newark. I had a hard time telling people I'm here on the basketball scholarship. I stopped saying I was here on the basketball scholarship. I am a student here. I will get my degree here just like every other student coming from Newark Public Schools. But Newark Public Schools, now we're fighting, the community's fighting the board's fighting the community. At the end of the day, let's find a happy medium. I'm all about change. At the end of the day, I'm all about not so much change, but finding a happy medium. No, don't close all the schools. No, don't go charter. Not all the way. Let's find a happy medium. We're fighting each other. We've been fighting each other for years. I remember standing in this spot when I was in high school. The crowd was fighting the board was fighting backward. Dr. Cheney, you said that, we would work on it. Are we working on it, or is the board making the decisions for the community? Are we working on it? But then, again, in the community, we can't keep fighting the board. There is, in any relationship, there's not going to be 100%. We can agree to disagree. It's not always going to be 100% in everything. All I want to say, I don't think the school should be closed. I am a product of Newark Public Schools, born and raised, and I did extremely well.
Ms. Jefferson, I want to thank you for coming out and speaking. I want you to know something. The board never makes a decision without it going before the community, and I'll give you some examples. When we had to make a tough decision about William H. Brown Academy, like Ms. King said, that was taken out to the district. The graduation requirements that you saw today that we voted on last month, that was taken out to the community. The discipline policy was taken out to the community. This game point initiative was taken out to the community. So everything before we vote on it, we make sure we get input from the community so they understand what we're trying to get done in the district. And I want to commend you and your family for making sure you got through Newark Public Schools and did the great things that you have accomplished so far in your young life.
Can I just
Yes,
say
Ms. Jefferson.
I'm sorry. You're saying that we always take votes and stuff and include. You're noting key events where you did do something. I'm not one to sit up and fight. I'm not a fighter. I'm just not. But you're noting key events. But on the board, on the community side, they could probably bring back times where they felt like they weren't heard.
I'm just letting you know what we've done in instances.
Which is understood. But can you see? It needs to be a happy medium.
Ms. Jefferson, I agree with you.
Right.
We need to have conversations, but I just want you to know no decisions made without going before the community. Thank you. Next speaker.
Marsha Riley.
Discipline policy.
Good evening. My name is Marsha Riley. I live on 51 Haddon Terrace in Newark, New Jersey. And I'm here on behalf of Malcolm X Shabazz Southside High School. My name is Marsha. I am the current president of the class of 1971 Southside High School Bulldog Reunion Committee. We're probably the last graduating class under the old name of Southside High School. We highly revere that name. However, we give great respect to the current name, Malcolm X Shabazz High School. We've celebrated our high school reunion every 5 years without fail since the anniversary of our 15th year of graduation in 1986. And we are a graduating class, we were a graduating class of approximately 400 in 1971. We're currently supported by approximately 80 to 100 alumni who have survived the ravages of the drug revolution that existed in our day and still exists today. We are the proud alumni of Southside Malcolm X Shabazz High School, as I've heard so many times this evening already. We plan to celebrate our 40th reunion event right in the school proper, culminating with a dinner dance in the gymnasium next year. Besides the many celebrities who have graduated from Southside High School that decorate the Hall of Fame located in the edifice, we boast notables from our own graduating class, such as Judge Marilyn E. Williams, who sits as counsel on the municipal bench of this city every day. She had a conflicting engagement that rendered her unable to come tonight. Clarence Lilly, a high-ranking official with Gateway Cable TV of this city, and Raymond Clark, a recent inductee into the Hall of Fame, who was with us tonight, just to name a few. And I just noticed of my very, very good friend and church member, and the president of the NAACP for the state of New Jersey, James Harris, who is here tonight. We're here tonight to support the changes of our high school, but under the current principal, Dr. Donna Marable. We believe there is something that can be done now. This edifice will, right now, we believe that some changes can be made to the existing problems with the current administration, which the current administration has inherited. I personally worked in the public school system in this city as a volunteer and in Elizabeth as a teacher in adult education and a teacher's assistant for approximately 7 years. I call those my spy years because I was able to peep the school system while my own godchildren were attending this as students. I'm well aware of how faculty with their administrators are shipped to the dumping ground school as punishment for their sins.